Hey guys, it's Joe here. I'm really excited about this conversation today. You guys saw the God Shattering Star original, you saw the God Shattering Star English, you heard about my explanation of the lyrics and how complicated it was for me to kind of dig in and get in there. But today I am bringing on the master of guitars himself, FamilyJules. I had a great time chatting with him on this, and I hope you enjoy this little insight into his world of music and my world of rewriting lyrics. Here we go. Jules, dude.
Hello, Joe.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, man. This is so fun. I can't say I ever expected you to reach out and be like, let's just do it again.
Yeah, it's not something that I typically do. I feel like, so I've been doing almost weekly videos, music videos for better part of 13 years now. And there's kind of part of me that is afraid to revisit anything because I feel like there's so many people who want, if they're a fan of me, to hear my take on their favorite song. And if I'm just doing the same song over and over again, it's like, well, what about their song? That could have been a time that I could do their song. So last year I broke my thumb skateboarding. That was devastating. So my first thought is just okay, what do I do when I get back? And I had this idea that I was like, all right, what if I just community poll? What is your favorite video game song of all time? No restrictions. It was a Google form. You just type it in. Essentially, I added up all the votes and I figured, okay, I'll just do the top 20 songs. And there were a lot of songs that I've already done. We just did Weight of the World from Nier Automata, that I previously did with Caleb Hiles. And then literally the next one was God Shattering Star. I think it really goes to show how wrong people are when they're like, oh, video games just aren't good anymore. Video game music isn't good anymore.
What is that?
It's just because there's so much power in that nostalgia, right? Of
I think that makes perfect sense. I was talking about this with somebody else in Overclocked Remix, and I think I was talking about it on my stream. It's not that video game music isn't good anymore. It's that video game music is different now. There's even in Fire Emblem, right? I'm doing the whole Sax album.
Yeah.
We're finding it difficult to make 10 distinct tracks because it functions like a film soundtrack, right? You have leitmotifs and you have themes that are carried through, which is extremely powerful from a storytelling perspective. But the days of there being 13 characters in Final Fantasy VI and each of them having their own very distinct theme doesn't really happen anymore.
It didn't Octopath.
Okay, yeah. So we have throwback games.
I think I just don't think it needs to be that. I think people have all of these things that they're just oh, well, video game music used to be this and it used to be that. You used to have, rose-colored glasses on. When you're a kid, you're I can't remember what there was a psychological study that the same receptors in your brain go off when you're a young adolescent, when you're experiencing video games and stuff for the first time. Same spots as an adult doing cocaine. It's that important because those are the years that you're supposed to be figuring out your identity and kind of imprinting and stuff. It's never going to be like that again. Sorry. I know that that's a heartbreaking thing, but you're always chasing this dragon. But I think that's why people are oh, it doesn't feel the same. This is just my community, and the bias is definitely there. But that I would be what is your favorite video game song of all time, bar none? And they name a song from a game that came out 5 years ago.
3 years ago. Yeah, it's not that long ago. 4 years. Yeah, 4 years ago.
And that's awesome. I love that, and I think it really shows how much more we have to be excited about. But all that aside, when I did Weight of the World, it was kind of easy because the first time I did it, I did this super try-hard heavy metal version of it.
Right.
And I did it with Caleb Hiles, who is a absolute monster vocalist.
Very cool.
And I was the obvious thing to do is to do it acoustic, just like the original.
Right.
So I had Alana Fuentes sing on that, and that was a lot of fun. But then God Shattering Star, I was what do we do?
What do we do? And then I think I sent you one of my worst musical ideas ever, which was basically God Shattering Star, the Lounge Lizard version. I was when you slow it down, you lose the essence of it when you make it
absolutely
less epic, right?
But I did enjoy what you sent me. You did send me a demo.
Audio
and demo of it.
And it was stupid. There's no bad ideas. I guess. I don't know. That was a pretty bad idea.
No, it was fun, but it wasn't the vibe. It
wasn't the right vibe at all.
Yeah, I just couldn't figure out what to do. And then when you were like, let's do an English version, I was like, yeah, that's it. That's perfect.
I can't remember like how I figured that out either, to be totally honest. It was like through the grapevine, someone said, "Oh, God Shattering Star lyrics have been released." I don't know where they came from. I don't know how valid it is. And then like my first thought was like, "Oh, well, someone must have figured out what the original language was," and that's not even how it went. We still don't know what the original language is. I don't think it's a real language. Like linguists have looked at it and been like, "I don't know where this person's from."
There's a lot to say about, and I recently did a project that I probably should have announced a long time ago, but just in case I wasn't supposed to, I'm not going to announce it now that I was in it. But it was important that we did not use a real language for the song. And I think that what that does is it probably like skirts some liability, or
I wonder.
You don't have to do lyrics, maybe there's some kind of like, I don't know, Tipper Gore, like can't have words with, something, and we got to have the lyrics on everything or something. Like if it's a made up language, you literally don't have to worry about that. So my guess is it was probably something like that with my limited knowledge of how music works in the industry. But
it could be. But I mean, we had English lyrics for Edge of Dawn in the beginning, right?
And that was Greg Chun who did the arrangement of it.
Mm-hmm.
And big fan of Greg. I love Greg to death.
And very cool dude.
But yeah, I guess what I'm really like, what inspired me about that, I feel like I'm somewhat of an elitist, pretentious video game music, whatever snob.
Congratulations.
So
that's awesome.
Thank you. There's such an appeal to having English versions of music that isn't already English. And you could see this with a lot of cover artists, Christina V, Amelie, they all do like these English versions and they're very, very successful. So when you said like, oh, let's do an English version, I guess it never dawned on me that like a lot of people will love to be able to like sing along to this, and that we've literally had comments already of people being like, thank you, because like now I can sing along to it when I play it on repeat, which is phenomenal. So
that's awesome. And that makes me feel good, because my biggest fear doing this was that people are gonna be like, those lyrics suck. Like, because I had to adapt them, right? It's not like I could take the Japanese and then have the internet's translate. Like, it didn't work. It didn't work at all. It sounded like a fourth grader trying to fit the right, like the lyrics were from one song into the tune of another. It just didn't work. So like I had to reform the entire song with Annie's help, Annie Rosen, who's an opera singer.
Big shout out.
So she kind of helped me with some of the rhythm and the ideas.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, like having like really important words happen on important beats and stuff like that is huge. And you did such a great job of like adapting it to that. Like, I think that that's probably something that everybody who has to adapt lyrics has to deal with, is like, oh, this sounds so stupid. Like, especially when you're like, I think there's like this inherent power of a song that you don't understand. It's like speaking the language of the gods, So like then when you just make it understandable, maybe it kind of has like a magic loss to it. But I think especially like with anything that we do, right? It's like when you're in the weeds of it and you're building it bit by bit, you don't see it the way that the listener is going to hear it. And like the way that I heard it when you sent it to me, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. Like, I loved it.
I was glad. I was like, here's a demo. Maybe this will work. I don't know.
And I just slapped it in the song. Perfect. Thanks, Joe. That's how the first one was. That like, I think you sent me, you were just like, I don't know about this. I don't really sing opera, like whatever. And you sent me the track and I was like, nope, this is good. All right. And I put it in and you're like, wait, what?
Oh, okay, sure. Great. Fine. I think opera, like me singing opera has become a meme at this point.
You've done it like 4 times now?
I think this would be my 4th or 5th time, like having someone reach out and be like, I need you to sing opera for me. And me like grab them by the collar and be like, I have never been trained as an opera singer or any kind of singer. Why are you doing this to me? But
the joke is that if you get hired enough, you can never use that excuse again, because you're
right.
trained.
It's like, well, I guess now I am.
Now you're a professional opera singer. You're a professional opera singer. Yeah.
I hate that. I don't know. I'm not going to put that on a resume.
You should.
Someone's going
to be the top.
Out.
Yeah, should be the top of your LinkedIn.
And how's your thumb now? I mean, obviously you slayed it.
Thank you. So my thumb's great. I did this thing where oh god, it was like the week that my thumb broke. That episode of Stranger Things came out where Eddie Munson plays Master of Puppets.
Oh, okay.
And
yeah.
Master of Puppets was the first song that I ever played with a band. And I still know every part of that song, and it just felt like such a middle finger from the universe that it's like there will never be a more perfect time to cover Master of Puppets.
Oh no!
And then I couldn't because my thumb was broken. So my whole thing was once I was out of the cast, I shattered the thing, man. I was in a cast for 2 months.
That's a long time.
And they were like, you have a 1 in 10 chance that this will heal right. And we wouldn't need surgery. And I hit that. I hit the RNG on that. Wow. 1 out of 10, and I didn't need surgery. But there was part of me that was almost like, I kind of want surgery to make sure it heals right.
Yeah, you want to be like, this is my livelihood, man. I want to be,
But Master of Puppets was my Eye of the Tiger training montage.
Good, dude.
Getting back into playing, and once I could play it again, I was like, all right, I'm ready to go back in the ring. And I mean, ever since then, I haven't really felt any like weakness or anything. It just there definitely was kind of a Dave Mustaine-esque having to relearn to play guitar after being told you'd never play guitar again. No,
so what was it like getting back into like the beast that, I mean, like, you didn't write an easy part for God. Like, that's not what you did originally. Is what was it like coming back to it?
It was hard. Honestly, I feel like there was part of me that was like, all right, it's been 3 years, I'm gonna hit it again. Because like when we first did it in 2020, it was almost impossible for me to play. Like I pride myself on pretty much being able to play like anything that's thrown at me, given enough time. But God Shattering Star is probably like up there with like Through the Fire and the Flames for like the hardest thing I've ever had to play.
Damn, dude.
It's partly like it's not written for guitar. You know, these arpeggios are all over the place, and
they're piano, right? And I think the original,
and it sounds like they're just. It almost just sounds like a random note generator at some points. Like it's just a flurry of notes, and it kind of repeats sometimes, and then kind of doesn't. So like you can't just copy and paste or anything like that, right? Because like the hardest part is certainly the bridge where it's like da 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 or whatever. Because like, it's just straight like ascending arpeggios over and over and over again, and those are annoying on guitar because you have to reposition every time you go to the next one, and those arpeggios are not like standard shapes. So I had to kind of like half of them I had to tap in a certain pattern, then the other half I had to tap in a different pattern. I was actually like let down at how not much better I got in 3 years.
Well, I mean, you had your injuries and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I still feel like, I don't know, I really hyped up this like, oh man, I'm gonna hit it and I'm gonna nail it, and like no, it was still obnoxiously difficult to play.
It's tough, man. Like so right before, it's so funny, like maybe a week or 2 or 3 weeks before you reached out and were like, let's do this part 2. I actually had just finished recording the sax quartet version of God Shattering Star.
So it's fresh.
Dude, there were parts of that tune that I was recording measure by measure because like I had to get each of them right. It has 2 Barry parts. Like the bass part of that song is so complicated that like I needed 2 Barrys side by side to do the thing. And then like there's arpeggios all over the place on a sax, which can be, it can be easier than guitar, but can also be more difficult if you're modulating keys, and it's just like my pinkies are ready to fall off.
Yes.
So I empathize, man. It's not an easy song, but it is a brilliant one.
It is. It's one of the best video game songs of all time.
100%. It's one of the best video game songs of all time. Like, it's right up there with Dancing Mad.
So one thing that was easier for me this time around, I think it's because I did a lot more like rhythm guitar stuff, is that or whatever, that riff. That was like my favorite. Like that was the thing that I was like when I first heard the song. I was like, I want to play that on guitar. I know it sounds impossible,
That's
but
very Dream Theater. Yeah.
very Dream Theater. And I'm friends with John Petrucci, the guitarist of Dream Theater. And part of me wants to like send it to him, but another part of me is nervous. I'm like, he'd just be like,
Don't judge me.
That's cute. Like you're playing in 4/4.
He'll send it back to you. He's like, I spent 3 or 4 minutes with this. This is what I got. And you're like, man, screw you.
Yeah.
I don't have time for this.
Actually, I don't think it's. I think it's in 6/8, but still a normal time signature. So
Yeah.
Dream Theater would never touch it.
Right? He's like, oh, wow, you can divide this. This doesn't make a prime number when you divide it? Wow, okay.
This doesn't become an imaginary number.
Yeah.
It's also just like such a weird, like, I know you said you're like, oh, it's crazy that you reached out to me. I'm just happy you did it because like a lot of people, including me, who are huge fans of, Three Houses, it's just so cool to have like, the original like voice actor for Claude doing a song for essentially what, like his, I was going to say his nemesis, but that's literally his name.
Wow,
But-
no, that's pretty good. Yeah, yeah.
And people are like kind of like piecing it together in the comments too. They're just being like, oh, it's so cool. I never thought about this in the perspective of
I had
nemesis.
no idea.
Yeah.
I had zero idea until I looked at the English lyrics. And even then, like I glossed over it. And it wasn't until I started adapting it that I was like, oh.
Ooh,
This
yeah.
isn't about Claude at all. Wow, and I was like, wow, yeah. Wow, Claude has an ego. He would think it was about him anyway. I got a question at a panel, like at a con a couple months ago, that was like, "Who's your favorite Claude ship?" And I said, "His ego." So like, it's just that's awesome. But dude, it was an incredibly fun project. I'm really happy you asked me back, and I hope you and I make more music in the future, bro. This is
literally anytime, Joe. You were such a pleasure to work with.
The pleasure is all mine, Jules. It was awesome. Thanks so much for chatting with me for a little bit. And
Absolutely.
Go shatter some God stars, I guess. Later, dude.
See you, man.
Thanks for sticking around, guys. Make sure you check out FamilyJules on YouTube. He's got incredible music everywhere. He puts out a new video every week, and every single one is absolutely worth listening to. I've linked that in the video description below. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.